arcade game, today's biggest hit. For your NES.
Oh my gosh, it's the DG podcast. Late, but not forgotten.
You made it.
The hype will overwhelm you. The greatest podcast on the internet is back once again for a second week. Most of the blame lies on Silver's shoulders. Silver,
no.
I demand Sudoku.
Oh, well,
may the numbers lead to your death.
yeah, I was about to do that anyway without you asking me for it, but okay.
I didn't even update the other thing because everything was so last minute. We're technically player level 64.
Yeah, that was fun. I literally was in the middle of a 3-hour exam when you were like, "Oh, here's the prompt for the thumbnail," and I'm just like,
you know
"Oh
what?
gosh."
You know what?
She's here.
You know, as I was telling Jason, as we were sitting here sort of wondering what's going to happen to this podcast, I was going, you know, if she had a final or there was some sort of like conflict, she could have just like texted me and been like, hey, send me it early. I'm not going to have time later. And I'd have been like, okay.
And the thing is,
or, you know, let me know and I might have figured something out, or, you know.
Listen, a lot happened that I won't go into, but my gosh. I'm not even done with exams, but I'm like, I need a break. I'm screaming on the inside. I have one more left.
Ooh.
And I've been at it for a week.
Is it like a project?
No, it's word of advice if any of you are in college and decide to go down the route of science. Number 1, don't. Number 2, don't take what are notoriously the hardest classes known in science, such as organic chemistry, epidemiology, and statistics altogether. Don't do it.
Oh, poor decisions. You know what I did? I cheaped out, didn't go the science route, went the arts route, and my arts credit was I had to do a language which I could already speak. That's right. That's right. I got out of there acing Portuguese.
I had a microbiology class, and it was a notoriously hard, difficult class. Most of the students in the class were nursing students or pre-med or something of that nature. And
Oh, yeah.
the reason I took the class, I was a business major. The reason I took the class was I needed 4 credits to finish my generals. And that class was 4 credits. So I get there on the first day and the teacher says, if you're here for a general credit, this class is too hard. Get out. And I was just like, no, screw that. I need 4 credits. Your class is 4 credits. I need that. So the rest of the time that I was in the class, anytime anybody would ask me what my major was, I'd be like, business. And they'd look at me funny, like, I was growing an extra head or something. I passed the class with no problems, got an A in the class, beat out most of the pre-med students.
Well,
But
I've
for
been
me,
told that before too, and it's not even.
The thing is,
I've literally had a teacher say the exact same thing. This class is too hard for your average student. You shouldn't, if you're taking this as an extra, you shouldn't be here unless you have to take it. It's too difficult. It wasn't that difficult.
Well, the thing for me was there was no pressure for me to excel in the class. Now, I didn't want to get a bad grade. I wanted to get an A out of the class, but I literally had no pressure. None whatsoever. I didn't have to do well in the class like the other 99% of the students in the class. They had to get a good grade in that class or they were going to be repeating the class until they did. For me, it was I had fun in that class. It was just different from all the other stuff I was doing, and so it was nice. It was a relaxing class. Yeah, it was difficult, but I had a great time in that class.
Yeah, I never buy those. This is too hard for you. Literally had that problem. Spent my time correcting the teacher on things. And that makes me sound like arrogant, but it's like, no, I literally did correct the teacher on poor information because I'm very up to date on the news. Believe it or not, most of my day is involved listening to the news.
I bet the teacher loved you.
Actually, she thought I was like super smart.
Well,
Boy, did I trick her.
For the most part, it's those students who are correcting the teachers that a lot of teachers find difficult to deal with. So I'm glad that you had a good experience there. That hasn't been what I've noticed.
Well, so she brought up that part of the reason why America's status in the world oversteps China is because we have large fleets and aircraft carriers, which China doesn't have. I said, that's not true. And she goes, oh? And I was like, yeah, they recently bought an aircraft carrier. This was before they had even built the couple that they've got now. And I was like, yeah, they bought one. They bought one from somebody, and they were in the process of building some. India bought an aircraft carrier to try and get one before China got one. And I was like, it's not true. They've got aircraft carriers. So your whole point's completely wrong.
That's funny.
I know things. I'm smarter than you, random internet person. You know what I was going to begin this podcast with? I was going to try and modify the DuckTales theme song and make it sound like that's our theme song. Life is like a hurricane here in the DG podcast.
It's just your voice cutting in.
Get Disney's attention.
No, it's an original song I made up on my own. Race cars, lasers, airplanes. It's a DG podcast blur. I don't know what's going on with old Ross. I think he's back home at the moment, which is concerning because he usually goes back home when there are problems with the parents. And I know they're getting older.
That home, okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Chance has joined us, and he's speaking Spanish. Time to deport old Chance. I'm putting you on a plane to El Salvador, even if that's not where you're from.
Deport.
I've seen those MS-13 tattoos in your knuckles, sir. I know who you are.
You can't pull the wool over our eyes.
No. You fool. Goodness. I labored, if you've listened to this podcast before, frequently we have sort of an interesting discussion about the big topics of the day at the beginning of the podcast. I labored to some degree.
Not this time.
Not this time. I labored to some degree to figure out what it is we should talk about. And part of the reason was the topics that are dominating everything, everybody has talked about to a massive degree. And so the question was, it's like, what exactly do we have to add to the discussion except for retreading the same conversation you've heard on 12 other podcasts earlier on, especially with the curse that we are on way too late.
You know what
So what are
people
we
show
gonna
up
do?
for? Hear the same thing, but in our voices.
To regurgitate other people's content, yes.
Exact
says-
word for word.
Chet says, I have
That
no
means we don't
knuckle
have to think about
tattoos, but I had an old man ask me if my Flash and Batman tats were a gang thing. They are. It's a really crappy gang, but that is a gang thing.
Really sad gang.
A really sad gang.
It's the only gang where people on the outside beat us up because we're nerds.
Yeah, non-gangs beat up and bully that gang.
Yeah.
So the main topic of conversation is Andor. Now, it's not going to be the only conversation. The big drama happened with The Last of Us as well. So the main drama happened with Andor Season 2. That's right. Andor Season 2 is out. Chance says we do drive-by sneerings. You tip your fedora and you say, actually. And you correct people. Actually. So yeah, Andor Season 2 came out with a 3-episode premiere. There was a lot of hope with this show. Andor Season 1 didn't perform super well, but it had a lot of critical acclaim. I've seen it. I quite liked Andor Season 1. Some might not. I thought the storytelling was pretty good, but some might not like it, mainly because it might be considered a little slow for them or something. But I generally enjoyed Andor Season 1, so I've been interested in Andor Season 2. The end of the 3rd episode of the big premiere is where all the controversy lays. Now, if you live under a rock and you are unaware, I'm going to say this as algorithm friendly as I can possibly manage, okay?
Oh, good. I do live under a rock. Please.
Andor Season 2 ends where a Imperial officer attacks a female character. He first tries to kiss her and stuff. She says no and fights back. There's a physical fight, and she hits him with a wrench, and he stumbles out and dies. That's what happens.
Okay.
If you put no context to it, or if nothing was added to it, it might imply some sort of essay or some sort of grape, if you will. But the average person,
You said
like,
grape.
it wouldn't.
Don't flag us.
It wouldn't be subdued. I'm like a child would just think, oh, he just attacked her, he assaulted her, sort of thing. What made it more controversial wasn't necessarily, in my mind, though a lot of people got upset because it's in there in a Star Wars show. What made it more controversial in my mind is one of the Imperial soldiers, his driver, is outside the building. And he hears the fight and sees him fall out and dead. And he goes to the building. He's like, come out here with your hands up and stuff. And he's holding his gun. What makes it controversial, which opens it up to all of this other drama where kids are like, wait, what's going on? Is she literally yells, he tried to grape me in a Star Wars show.
Yeah,
I
that's
I see now.
And if that wasn't there, adults would understand what kind of happened. Kids would think, oh, he tried to attack her. But now we have this element of she literally yells it, and the internet has gone insane.
There's no mystery to it.
No, there's no mystery.
For the children.
Now, literally, you're going to have your kids sitting there going, it's like, what is grape?
yeah.
Hey, Mom.
Mom, what is she talking about? And this opens a big conversation as to a lot of responses. Now, I have an article. I'm going to bring up this article. And the article actually does a pretty good job of addressing some of these concerns. Okay. Bringing it up. Oh, and it's formatted horribly.
Yeah.
That's right. Live editing. Suck it. All right. So the Andor showrunner came out and defended what had happened and claimed that the scene just felt right.
Oh my gosh.
And Disney didn't challenge.
Let's include this in a family show.
Disney didn't challenge the controversial scene. I considered actually just playing the scene in the podcast, but it cuts a bit. It drags because it's like at first he's trying to kiss her, and then they kind of fight, and then it gets really violent, and so it's like it's a little too long.
Mm-hmm.
What is grape is what the government does to my paycheck every week, but I'm dumb. Chance. So to read, in a newly released interview with the Hollywood Reporter, Gilroy defended the most disturbing sequence in Andor to date and Star Wars. A scene in which an Imperial officer tries to force himself on a rebel fugitive, Bix Caleen. The moment ends with Bix screaming the nature of what almost happened to her, removing all ambiguity as to what happened. It left many viewers shocked, not just for its content, for what it signaled about the franchise's tonal direction. When pressed about the decision, Gilroy offered a response that has since set the internet ablaze. Let's be honest, this history of civilization, there's a huge arterial component of it, and that's grape, if you will. He said, all of us who are here are a product of grape. I mean, armies and power throughout history. So to not touch it in some way, it was just organic and it felt right. Coming about as a power trip for this guy.
Star Wars!
I know.
Oh my gosh.
And he said Disney didn't say anything about it, but we have limits on what we can do. We are very aware of what we can do.
Apparently not.
Well, it's like Star Wars. I heard comments of like, well, this really displays how really evil the Empire is. And it's like, first of all, no. It tells you how evil that guy is. Second of all, does the Empire really need reassurance when literally the Emperor is sitting there in a cloak going, like it's clearly an evil organized. You don't have to sell it harder. And it's evil in a exaggerated comical way. So you don't have to, it's so that it's understandable to children. You don't have to bring really weirdly serious elements to it. One of the largest Star Wars YouTuber on the internet, Star Wars Theory, tweeted out, essay in Star Wars feels unnecessary. You can portray power dynamics, make the audience hate the Empire in other ways without taking it to such a disgusting place. Vader wouldn't tolerate that. Nor does the Empire condone it. It has no place in Star Wars, period. Unnecessary. To be honest, the argument that it doesn't have a place in Star Wars is a fair one. However, if you watch the scene, it's not actually that bad. It isn't. The worst part is that she screams the word.
Yeah.
I mean,
You just took that out, being different.
Yes. Yeah.
The it's almost like they use that as a justification for the scene. You know what I mean? They're sitting there saying, well, obviously he killed her, or excuse me, obviously she killed him. How is she going to get out of this? Because the Imperial soldiers are going to be rushing in with their guns drawn. And how does she get out of it? Well, instead of actually coming up with a clever plan or having them capture her and then having the rebels come up with a clever plan to spring her from Imperial custody, this is her getting out of the situation. This is her escape pod, if you will, in this situation. She's just like, I can just play the grape card, and I get out of here. Yada yada.
But
I'm done.
that doesn't
It's
work.
sloppy, right?
And start like they didn't let her off or anything. Well, and here's the thing: if you're implying that like things like this have no place in Star Wars, let's forget that Leia was a sexy slave to Jabba the Hutt, where she had a little metal bikini and he licked her and had her on a chain. Now, you could imply a lot of things as to what her role was in that situation, but you don't know because they don't explicitly say it. It's implied. It's implied what had happened in this scene, but they literally said it is the problem.
Well, not only that, but with Princess Leia, she was the in captivity to a crime lord who was even more scummy than the Empire.
Well, and there was cut dialogue as well as some other things from Jabba to imply that he's like, "Oh, I've got other uses for you," and he was supposed to kiss her and then lick her, sort of. So it's like there was more implication, and all of this is fine. Look, doing this takes it out of the realm of being more kid friendly. Now, I'm all for a more adult themed Star Wars, but you've now opened a can of worms, especially in a environment with a company that is supposed to be a lot more sensitive to these sorts of things. Like, wouldn't the expectation that somebody gets triggered by watching this in some way? I can't believe you displayed that on screen. It brought me back to PTSD moments of having experienced this in the past, blah, blah, blah.
I'm sure that there is somebody that has that experience, and I don't want to belittle it in any way, but at the same time, if we can't do any entertainment that might trigger someone, then we're gonna run out of things to do.
Well, I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. My point was, Disney claims to be sensitive to these things.
True.
That it comes across as hypocritical from a company who's supposed to be very sensitive to these sorts of issues. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it or always risk never offending people. I'm all for more adult Star Wars. This is very adult Star Wars. So if we're going to move into that realm, then this kind of changes identity. Once again, I don't have any problem with the scene. I've watched it. It's not that bad. The screaming part is much, much worse. Because now, like I said, a kid might watch this and go, "Oh, he just attacked her." Mm-hmm. Now he's going to go, "Oh, what's that? What's that? What does she mean?"
Every parent is dreading. Oh gosh.
Yep.
They're going to ask now about it.
And the show is rated TV-14, by the way.
Yeah. Although I do have a kind of a funny anecdote about kids that is in line with this. Apparently, back in like the 80s, there was a news program that was debating on whether or not Bert and Ernie from Sesame Street were gay. and the person was sitting there watching this with their kid in the room, and when they got done with watching this segment on the news, they just saw their kids starting to turn to them, and all these things were going through their mind. What am I going to say? How am I going to explain this to my kid? And the kid's question was, Bert and Ernie are puppets?
Well, even the discussion opens it up where no one would have assumed anything beforehand, but now that we've been weirdly, awkwardly obvious. However, in Andor, so the internet freaked out. A lot of accusations that this isn't Star Wars, this isn't what Star Wars should be doing. While we're putting that sort of content in what is supposed to be child-friendly, etc., etc., etc. Yes. The show also talks about undocumented individuals being rounded up and whatnot, so it seems to want to make political statements in how it displays things.
I'm so tired of these people.
Yes. Which is a good direction in a hyper-political world. That'll bring a divided world together to watch this content.
People happy.
The Andor creator had apparently previously stated that he isn't a fan of Star Wars, or a fan of Star Wars, as he put it. Well, and we get this frequently in Hollywood. Writers get control of stuff that they don't like, and they try and mold it into something that they would like. And it's like, can't we get people that understand the content that they're creating? And this is supposed to be the prestige television of Star Wars. Andor was something that the critics liked and that fans were giving good reviews.
Well, not
Star
just
Wars is overwhelmingly dead. And now your plan with the thing that people tend to like is to make it divisive. This is your plan. This is the goal that you have for revitalizing Star Wars. Let's remind everybody that during the Star Wars celebration in Tokyo, nobody talked about the Rey movie, which is supposed to be the next big, trilogy.
Yep.
You've got nothing. And your plan is this?
Doing the what now?
I want to point out that with the writers and producers of these IPs, we don't just want somebody that understands, but we want somebody that likes the IP and that wants to make the fans happy, not themselves happy. It's good if you like it too, but in reality, what we want is we want this to be something that the fans enjoy. Because if it's something that, you're the creator and you enjoy it, that's great, but that's one person.
You know what was a really good piece of content that made new stories that really understood Star Wars and took it in interesting ways? Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, that's true.
They got Star Wars, they understood it, and they took it in interesting ways, and it felt like Star Wars, as opposed to I'm gonna insert current political drama into my show because I have something to say, and I'm going to use the vehicle of this giant children's show that's extremely popular in order to express my grievances towards whatever political agenda I currently have to have. That seems to have been working out for Hollywood for quite some time, don't you think? This seems to be the good plan.
Mm-hmm.
This has been going well for you guys.
If I want that kind of stuff, I can go find it. I don't need you guys to do it. If I want good Star Wars, though, that's what I need you guys for, and you're just not delivering.
So, things fell apart here with the damaged Hollywood planet as we fly by. Things are falling apart on Andor, and they're getting a lot of press attention that is not necessarily the type of press attention you want to have. Well, guess what? A show called The Last of Us has a season 2, and it's been airing. Lest we forget, there is a moment in the video game that caused a massive amount of controversy. Controversy, you say? Whatever do you mean? Well, the game had a lot of people hate it for very specific reasons. One in particular, spoiler alert, they introduce a new character called Abby, who's supposed to be a woman and looks like a man, and she beats to death everybody's favorite character.
Yep.
And for some reason, they thought that we would understand her motives and be okay with this, and everyone hated it.
Oh yeah, I remember when the first Last of Us came out. It was a critical darling. Everybody loved it, and then there was a lot of hype. This is, in a lot of ways, this reminds me of Joker and the follow-up movie to the Joker, with there just being so much fan excitement for the continuation of the story, and then it ticked so many people off. So many people.
Well, the only way to make it closer to The Last of Us is you would have a new character show up, beat Joker to death, and then they would force us to watch a show about the new character.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's literally what happens in the game. They make you play as Abby for most of the rest of the game.
The person that killed Joel, you're now playing as her?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And the writer thought he was so clever that at the end of the game, they would give you an option to choose whether or not you kill Abby or spare her. And overwhelmingly, people who tested the game killed Abby, and it upset him because he thought he wrote such a good game that everybody would, by that point, have empathized with Abby and liked the character. So he literally just removed that choice from the game. So you don't get the option to kill Abby at the end of it. Because guess what? You're not that good a writer, and everybody hated her character. So even just forcing us to play as her is not going to make us like her. And the problem is, Joel is literally the beloved character that everybody got to know and cared about throughout the game. He's liked more than the girl. He's more relatable than the girl.
You can't kill off a character like that and have us like the person who killed that character.
He thinks he's clever enough he can do that.
Well, I mean, there are ways to do it. You have to kind of go down the path of Joel's experience leads him to becoming the bad guy.
So
you know what I mean?
Well, here's the problem. That is a complete character turnaround. We like him for a reason, and now you're going to have to... See, people would have hated that more because they're like, that's not Joel.
Right. I'm not saying that it would have worked. I'm saying that they have done things like that with characters where you have a hero in the first game, and then through the story of whatever happens to them, they then become hardened and
what game are you talking about?
It's one of the ones where you're killing zombies. I'm trying to remember which one it is. One of the protagonists in one of the games. It's the one where you strap chainsaws to your motorcycle and drive around. Apparently, they made him into
Dead Rising.
Yes,
Dead Rising.
They made that character. They made him into a villain later in the series because of all the stuff that had happened to him.
I mean, it would have been dumb, and it probably was.
It probably was.
Here's the point. Have they done it successfully? Is my problem.
Not-
and the
not
only
recently.
show I can think of possibly that has done this successfully, have a complete character change, is Breaking Bad, because that's literally the point of the show. You start out as a good character that you like, and by the end of it, he's a bad character you hate. But they do it gradually over many seasons.
Right.
We are way off topic. The point is that the writing was poor, and any idea that this was going to go over well is delusional. And surprise, surprise, everybody hates what happens in the show. Oh no, we're getting backlash because of the negative reception of killing Joel in a show everybody liked just last season.
Didn't they kind of I shouldn't say retweak. Didn't they tweak the character of Abby for this show? Isn't she? So, like you said, it was in the video game. It was a woman that looked like a man. Isn't it like an actual woman that looks like a woman in the show?
Well, I don't know what you're saying by tweak. Literally, you physically can't get a woman that looks like that. That's the problem. So they didn't tweak it. They just found an actual woman as opposed to a woman that looks like she had transitioned. When in reality, she was not somebody who had transitioned. It was just a woman who physically had the physique of a man that she could not have obtained naturally. So not so much a tweak as we physically can't cast this role unless they just cast a man.
Don't tempt them. They'll do that.
Yes. Well, the point being, in a shocking turn of events, people who are watching the show are outraged about what they did to everybody's beloved character from the first season. It's almost like this happened in the game, and no one's shocked at the backlash at killing Joel in the second season. And apparently, the accusation is that they're receiving review bombs. And an article from Collider claimed that it is all review bombs, and they're dismissing the outcry from viewers as little more than coordinated trolling. Or guess what? Everybody actually hates it. Is that possibly an option? That people actually hate it?
No, people must love it. It has to be the internet trolls.
It would
Yeah, it's
appear
just an
that
error.
it's just an error. It would appear that the trolls are out of their caves.
Yep.
And that Rotten Tomatoes is full of disgruntled viewers with a vendetta against female-led productions. Guess what? When there's a female-led production that I don't watch, I don't go out of my way to review bomb it because I don't care. Women are allowed to have their shows. Do you know who review bombs things? People who were watching it and now are upset. Nobody goes out of their way to be like, I don't like that this female-led. What a waste of time. Like, how boring is that? You would literally have to go after any show that's female-led. Like, nobody's review bombing some period piece British drama. They're review bombing this because they don't like the direction it's going. This is why
sure.
you don't watch the first season. We knew what was going to happen.
I'm sure
Why?
that there are people there that are bored enough and trolly enough to do review bombing.
Well, you know what I'm not interested in anymore is the outliers, is the marginal case of the possibility that there is somebody out there that's actually trolling. That accounts for like 0.1% of the real people.
What I was getting at here was we already knew what the story was going to be, unless they were going to be really what's the word, daring here, and go against what was written in the video game, if they were going to depart from the video game, we basically knew this was coming, that Joel was going to get killed. And so you don't think people who liked The Last of Us and thought you guys did a great job with season 1, and then they, knew what was coming up here, you don't think that they would have a problem with you killing Joel in your show when they definitely had a problem with killing Joel in the video game? I mean, well, I could be wrong here.
And I think this article points out that we're getting a whole new group of people that hate what they did organically as they watch this because they weren't people who played the game. To read this article really quick, what Collider article ignores is that the backlash of Joel's removal isn't just coming from longtime gamers. It's now being echoed by new viewers experiencing this part of the story for the first time. In 2020, fans of Last of Us Part 2 were blindsided by how quickly the sequel pivoted away from its central character. Many expressed that Joel's absence left a narrative void that the rest of the game couldn't fill. Yep. Now, 5 years later, audiences who never play the games are reaching the exact same conclusion. These viewers didn't come in with preloaded expectations. They simply connected with Joel over the course of season 1, only to feel like the story suddenly ripped its emotional core away in season 2. That's not trolling. It wasn't back in 2020, and it's not now. That's storytelling fallout, and it's happening again because people are responding to the poor storytelling again.
That's it. That is really interesting. That is a really interesting fact there. I mean, obviously, with The Last of Us Part 1 and the first season of The Last of Us, they did a really good job with Joel and with the writing. If people are so closely identifying with him and with his motives and with his character, and that he became that beloved that when the second season and the part 2 of the video game came around, that basically the whole thing lost its emotional center when they killed that character. That is, the first one had good writing. The second one obviously did not know what they were doing at all.
And that belies why people so misunderstood the first one. Because they thought, oh, well, Ellie is this big, important. It's like, no. Ellie is a MacGuffin. To explain to you why the first game is so impactful, Joel loses his daughter in the beginning of the game. She dies from the zombie apocalypse. Yep. Ellie becomes a proxy for his daughter. He grows to care for her and then makes ultimate sacrifices in order to keep her safe. Ellie is not as important as how Joel sort of projects onto her sort of his daughter.
Right.
Their relationship is really important, and Ellie is really important to how they interact and stuff like that. She's not the central character. Joel is the center and heart of the story, his motivations, why he's there, what he's doing.
Yep.
Now you're going to murder this man.
It's like I said, Ellie is just a MacGuffin. You could take Ellie out and swap her for something else. Now, obviously, having Ellie be a girl, that allows us actually to have Ellie as a proxy for his daughter who got killed, and we can, and it sets up that connection, much better. But technically, you could swap Ellie out for something else, and it wouldn't change the story.
For a son or something, like she isn't, her element isn't as vital as his reasons that make her so important to the story.
Exactly. And so people who think that Ellie is so much more important than Joel, obviously they missed something.
Well, and the article makes a really interesting point here that with all of the accusations of sexism that people don't like it and stuff, the article points out while some complaints do involve casting concerns specifically around Bella Ramsey's performance as Ellie, it's not actually about gender. It's about whether or not the portrayal aligns with the character that fans knew from the game, which is completely fair. And it's a valid discussion about the adaptation. Dismissing all critiques as prejudice is not only reductive, it's dishonest. This is actually a fairly well-written article, and I encourage you to look into it. Now, we've got 2 shows that made really poor decisions, came out with episodes that completely damaged everybody's perceptions of these shows, and suddenly a show went from something that's generally beloved by a lot of people and is suddenly damaged. Now, before I go into my final point, Silver is the only person here that's actually watched season 1 because I avoided it with the 10-foot pole. What did you think of season 1 and the story? Does it play out in the way I described?
Yeah, I've never played the games. I knew they were games going into watching it, but didn't know a thing about it. But just going in blind, I could see why people, liked it the first season. And how, with all this stuff, they ruined it.
I mean, was Joel endearing? Did people really like his character, or do you really like his character?
Personally, me, no.
Is it the Pedro Pascal problem?
I think it is. It might be bias against Pedro Pascal. I don't know, but
Well, she is a kaiju monster. She probably just has no heart.
No, that's fair.
That's true.
I didn't see that. I might have thought the show sucked. Do you think you're going to be forced to watch season 2?
No.
Kaiju Dad has lost.
No, it's not Kaiju Dad. It's Kaiju Mom that made.
Kaiju Mom.
Kaiju Mom did that, and yeah, no, I don't want to. I really did not like what's her face, Ellie.
Look, this makes me sound horrific that I'm being reductive and turning her into just a physical symbol, but she looks like a troll. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, like you see pictures of, because I've seen little bits, clips from the game, and you see the interactions between those two, and it is kind of like a father-daughter sort of thing, it looks like. And just based off what I'm getting from the clips, Ellie seems like a genuinely, would be a loved character.
They designed
as
her
long
to
as
look
she's there
very similar
with
to
Jill.
Ellen Page, now Elliot.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, the original design, and then they actually changed it and she looks slightly different and more like this other actress. No, they didn't make her more masculine. The original design looked like Ellen Page, now Elliot.
Right.
The change made her look more like this other actress that looks similar to Ellen Page.
Gotcha.
But regardless, it's like Ellen Page has this young, cute, youthful sort of face to her. That's why she was used in so many things. So it makes sense as to why people might disagree with the casting of this new girl. She's not very good looking. I'm just gonna say it. She's not.
She's just a bit horrifying. I'm sorry.
Yes, she has a mega forehead, a 5 head, if you will.
I was just gonna say, I'm not sure if it's the forehead putting me.
So, 2 shows came out with a single episode to completely destroy everybody's perception of that show. How hilarious. I have one final thing to point out, which I found funny. So everybody is sitting here going, oh, those right-wing trolls that just hate everything. And it's only these right-wing trolls that hate this shows because of their weird perception of this sort of thing. Well, believe it or not, people who are encountering this for the first time Left and right don't like it. That's right. Case in point, Grace Randolph actually hates it, and she was aware of the story. I don't know if she played the game. She was aware of the story, and to read her tweet, to clarify, let's see, I'm not going to cover The Last of Us Season 2, and will probably stop watching the show. I really disliked last night's episode. Despite liking the cutscenes of the second game quite a bit, Abby was never cruel. But I see a lot of people enjoy Dever's performance, so I don't want to be critical of it. So she's just not going to review it anymore.
I'm done. I'm checked out.
Yeah, we're actually getting a lot of left-wing people, political spectrum-wise, not liking the show or how it's portrayed. And even if they're aware of it, they just didn't even like how the episode, performed. No one's shocked by these turn of events. No one was shocked. Hey, guess what, everybody? News time.
The Distracted Gamer Podcast. Big steaming pile of news dump.
That's right, Chance has plugged that toilet, making everything worse. And here we are, dealing with the aftermath.
I'm gonna call a plumber.
Gonna call a plumber. Hey, everybody, it's the news dump. We're going to go over a lot of articles, a lot of news. Not as in depth as we did before. It is not the main discussion. The first article, Jason will enjoy. Amazing Spider-Man has retconned Peter Parker's childhood, revealing that he was no longer a bookworm and actually a beer-stealing troublemaker.
I saw that. Man, they have no idea what makes Spider-Man so beloved, and they are determined to crap on everything that we've ever loved about our superheroes.
It looks like we are in final negotiations for our future. Gosh, this is formatted horribly. For Highlander, which will be coming to Amazon.
Oh,
Well,
starring Henry Cavill. I don't know. Henry
Oh,
Cavill
that's
usually
right.
cares about what he does.
Forgot it was Henry Cavill.
So we'll have to
It's
see.
your Amazon now, and I
Maybe?
get scared.
I'm hopeful.
I mean, yeah. Henry Cavill does a good job, and he likes what he's in. Or I shouldn't say he likes what he's in. What I should say is he usually honors the source material for whatever he's in,
or at least tries to.
Yeah, and so hopefully, the first Highlander movie was good. The second one was a bomb.
Have you ever heard the story of Henry Cavill on the set of Witcher? And they're about to shoot a scene, and he's like, "Oh no, Geralt would be just sweaty, disgusting, covered in dirt right now." So he literally walks outside and rolls in the dirt for a while, comes back in, and is like, "Okay, let's shoot."
Yeah, that sounds so like him.
Well, he had a lot of fights with the writers. Because he kept saying that's not what Geralt would do, and that's not what the book says, and they didn't like it. Once again, we're talking about Highlander, and I'm hopeful he's attached to it. He seems to care about what he makes. Moving on. So, in what is being described as an explosive leak, do you recall when we learned a lot about the Sweet Baby Inc. stuff that was coming out?
Oh, yeah.
That we learn, and there was a specific quote. Let me see if I can find it, because they talk about it in here.
The one about make them afraid?
Yes. Make them afraid. Make them essentially... Oh, here it is. Go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want. Well, apparently we have leaks of actual instances where they bullied companies who weren't even interested in their narrative changes, but bullied them into changing things in order to cater to essentially their political agenda. And I quote, be met with less than optimal response to that, and then have to say it again and again and again. Describing essentially bullying the company into changing their stories to fit their narrative.
And what's really surprising to me is that these companies, when they caved to this bullying from Sweet Baby Inc., and they saw their products just tank, that they didn't immediately backpedal.
I maybe you weren't paying attention when we had this discussion. It has nothing to do with the integrity of the company and everything to do with people who are funding them tell them that they have to have some sort of political consulting team
I know.
in order to get their funding. So this evidence shows us that there were companies who didn't even want to do it, but it was pressure, because this gives you credibility with large financing corporations that fund these games. So they didn't even want to do it. This has nothing to do with whether or not they thought this was a good idea or not.
I get that. What surprises me is that these companies didn't immediately say, when what we saw happen, when these companies, the products that were interfered with by Sweet Baby Inc., when they came out, they were saying, "Oh, if you don't do this, then they're going to fall flat. They're not going to do blah blah blah."
Yeah, they have no say in that.
They said terrify them about all this stuff. When that stuff didn't happen, why did these companies keep going forward?
Because it's not up to them, Jason.
But the marketing people aren't getting
it's not up to
financing
them.
people aren't getting their money back either.
It's not up to them.
Well, it's up to somebody, and whoever that is,
the reason why
the
reason why they're being forced to do this is because of the people who are paying them. It's not up to them.
Right. But those people who are paying them aren't getting their money back either.
They don't give a shit. Literally, we have BlackRock making statements at massive financial meetings in Switzerland saying we have to force companies to make the right decision when it comes to the diversity, the equity, and the inclusion.
Right.
They will tank companies and force them to go out of business based solely on their political agenda. They do not give a shit if these developers stick around. And those developers don't have a say because they're not the ones paying for it.
Right. But BlackRock doesn't get money back either.
They don't care.
They don't want money. They're perfectly willing to go out of business on this.
They have billions of dollars. They are willing to just lose money in order to push their agenda. It is more important that they push their politics than they get any money out of the return. That you don't understand how these people work. They will throw money into holes and set it on fire as long as it accomplishes their goal. BlackRock owns so much property in this country. They own so much. They own chunks of all of the major corporations in this country. It's like saying, why would Disney lose money by putting out a product that loses? Well, it's because they have an agenda and they'll keep losing money because they don't care. BlackRock doesn't care if the developer goes out of business, and BlackRock doesn't care if they make any money on it. It's such a small fraction of their company. It's like Amazon saying, "Oh, well, we spent $1 billion on Rings of Power." It's like, yeah, but they could lose $1 billion. And this is infinitesimally smaller than that. They're literally tanking companies to push their agenda. They don't care. They don't care if they lose money.
We are seeing some of the companies. Disney, for one, seems to be.
Well, it's because Disney has had like eight massive losses that have caved any single production company over and over and like constant, massive hemorrhaging of money to the point where their brand is so damaged that people aren't showing up to this. Literally, for the first time in years, they've lowered the ticket prices at Disneyland.
Wow.
Yes,
That's
because
amazing.
people aren't going. Disney's actually damaged their brand. We're not even talking about Disney. Disney, one of the biggest
true.
corporations out there, BlackRock's bigger. BlackRock probably owns like 30% of Disney. They are so much bigger than you could possibly imagine. They do not care if they lose money. It's more important. And that's why the Sweet Baby Inc. was sort of the tip of the iceberg of a lot of these issues. We found out that there were these consulting firms that basically gave you credit with these big investment firms so that they would bring in money, and their requirement was you have to consult with some of these companies in order to fall in line with our diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives. Sweet Baby Inc. was one of those companies who would bully companies into making changes. And those companies made the changes because they knew if they didn't, the funding ran dry. Oftentimes it wasn't up to these companies, and I would bet a huge amount of these developers did this willingly. The point of the
I agree
article
with you on that one.
is that Sweet Baby Inc., we have clear evidence, despite the fact that they said they were doing it, we have clear evidence that they did actually bully companies that didn't even like what Sweet Baby Inc. was making them change. And it just, they had no decision in the matter, because if they didn't do it, they couldn't make their game, because higher ups demanded that they consult with these diversity firms. And this is what we get. But yes, we all knew this was a thing. More clear evidence that this was happening. And a bit of news that nobody cares about except for me. They are remaking Frostpunk, the first game.
Huh.
Apparently they're going to change some elements to it, add some more game mechanics. Update it graphically. It already looks really good. I mean, I think the point of them updating it is it runs on their proprietary engine, and they're doing it in Unreal 5, which will allow for modding,
Oh, interesting.
which will be a bonus.
Frostpunk, the first one, isn't that old, is it?
I don't know. I just played it this last year because it came within my radar because it was on sale for $3. But I don't know when it came out. When did it come out? 2018. So not that old.
Yeah, that's...
The speculation on the internet, the reason why we're getting a remake, is because Frostpunk 2, though it won Game of the Year for strategy game or some such, hasn't been well received because it completely changes. Frostpunk 1 and Frostpunk 2 feel like completely different games. Frostpunk 1 is like your very closed-in city builder in a way where, funny enough, you're trying to survive as opposed to like build a cool city. You're trying to build a city that won't die because doom is upon the earth. And I mean the literal, like the earth is freezing, and you're desperately trying to build up enough so that you can survive a massive storm that will murder everybody, and it's the end of the world. So yeah, the game is actually really entertaining. It gives us anxiety to it and whatnot. Frostpunk 2 doesn't play like that. It's a whole different ball of wax. You build bigger, but like the gameplay elements is completely different, which is brave on them to completely change everything up. And a lot of it comes down to like politics in the second game rather than simply survival, which is interesting. But I think people who love the first one were disappointed that we didn't get more of that in the second.
I mean, that's understandable. Usually you, when you find a game you like, usually what you want when the second game comes around is more of the same.
Which is why I
Oh.
think that's why we're getting a remake of the first game. Moving on. So the Ghost in the Shell director has been blasting political correctness in games and anime, saying you can't even talk about someone without someone being beautiful or not without being accused of discrimination. And it's fair, and he's probably looking down the road at how bad things are getting in the creative world, and he thinks it's dumb, and he deserves to have a voice when it comes to him being disappointed with what's happening. It's anti-art. All of this forced diversity, the political correctness is anti-art, and he is an artist who created one of the most long-lasting, most beloved animes of all time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I've thought of this. I've had this thought in my head relatively recently. I do like a lot of British television, and there's a British comedian. His name is David Mitchell. I like his wit. I like the stuff that he's been in, and just watching some of the shows on like BritBox and some of those things. It just kind of shows the difference between the way Hollywood casts things and the way that you get some of the British shows and stuff. With the British shows, they're not always casting the person who is the most attractive in a role, whereas you get that a lot with Hollywood. And I don't know if that
used to. But yeah.
Yeah, used to. I mean, now there's a little bit more. I mean, although with the recent things it's more they're hiring to check a box rather than they're hiring someone who's actually talented. Whereas it always felt like they were hiring really talented people for roles in England, as opposed to the way Hollywood has done things. I don't know if you've felt that same thing or not.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, now I've thought of something that makes me sound horrible. Because my initial thought was like, well, I mean, maybe they are casting the hottest Brits that they can find. I mean, you probably have a point that they probably make more of an evidence, but more of an effort to cast somebody who seems more natural in the role. But this is belies sort of differences in culture between the two sides and what people emphasize. Americans want shows to be almost aspirational. You don't want a superhero to look like you. You want a superhero to look like someone you would want. It's like if I'm a fat guy sitting on the couch, I don't want to watch a fat Captain America. I want to watch somebody who I want to aspire to. Nobody wants to aspire to a fat Captain America, which is why Thor was so dumb when he was fat. It's like, oh, it's so funny. It's like, no, it was really stupid. Like Thor wouldn't have let himself go. This is really dumb. And yeah, it was really bad in Endgame, and that's why Endgame is not as good as Infinity War. Fight me. We have digressed way off of this. Moving on. So, does everybody remember one of the biggest controversies in gaming to show why everybody hated DLC? The horse armor in Oblivion.
The horse armor.
Well, in a shocking turn of events, one thing that nobody expected to happen, though there were rumors we were getting Oblivion remastered, we finally got an official announcement. And alongside the announcement, they said, oh, by the way, it's out right now. And to no fanfare, Oblivion remaster hits the internet. Which blew everybody's mind. I would have suggested maybe do this with some fanfare and build up to it to give people time before you come out with the next Elder Scrolls. This way, this will be a
smart idea.
This will abide people for the next year or two. But no, do it as a surprise. It's funny. But so Silver, who wasn't alive, probably. I don't know. You're 4. When
Yeah,
Oblivion
who
came
knows?
out, there was a big controversy with the DLC. Now, in games previously, we believed that what you got in the game was supposed to be a complete game. And when we saw things like DLC come out, we saw this as them trying to like a cynical like ploy to get more money out of us by giving us these little bonuses, and we saw it as a bad sign. That if you were supposed to have horse armor in the game, it should have been in the game. You shouldn't
From the
be
start.
making us buy something like that. Yeah, from the start. So the horse armor was extremely controversial. It was a big, like, people hated it. They yelled at, at Bethesda for it on the internet. It was a big deal. I bought the horse armor, by the way. So I played into the stupid gimmick. So the horse armor has returned for the remaster. Here's what's funny. You still have to pay for it.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, that's right. If you have the base game, you don't get the horse armor. You have to have the deluxe version to get the horse armor.
Those,
That's so funny.
my gosh.
Yeah, I don't mind DLC when it completely expands the game. When it's almost like I'm getting a brand new game. I still don't really like it. I would much prefer to have the entire game when I buy the game. But when they're doing season passes and crap, I hate that so much more than just DLC, where it's like, I'm going to buy this one
'cause
thing.
Previously, DLC was a massive, like, addition.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't
Right.
minor little downloads. It was a massive addition to the game.
Yeah.
A horse armor?
Yeah, and by the way, horse armor gives you no stat boosts. It's just cosmetic.
No, it's just cosmetic.
Oh no.
Yep.
That's another part of the controversy, was that
Oh, it's Sea of
people were
Thieves
like,
all
I
over.
would be more willing to let this slide if it did something. This is just, I'm buying it to make my horse look fancy.
In a really bad, horribly titled article from the Daily Mail, Oblivion Remastered has been branded as woke by angry gamers who claim the game forces you to play as a transgender character.
Okay.
None of
Make
this
your own
is
character.
none of this is true. Literally,
Yeah.
what they did in the beginning is, instead of male and female, they did body type 1 and body type 2, which is lame. It's really dumb.
That is lame.
But claiming that because it's body type 1 and body type 2 means that there are no men and women, and that means your character is trans, is not accurate.
Oh my gosh.
And Daily Mail
It-
is a rag and a horrible British newspaper.
It's cowardly on the part of Elder Scrolls
Yeah.
that they didn't just go male female.
Well,
But-
it isn't. It isn't. You know something interesting?
What's that?
Well, so previously, when there have been quote unquote woke content in games, like Spider-Man 2, for example, it
Okay.
is littered with LGBTQ trans flags all over New York City. Well, people decided they didn't like it, and so somebody came out with a
that's
mod
right.
to remove it and replace it
Yeah,
with
they
American
modded.
flags. And those
Oh my
modders
gosh.
basically got legally attacked by
yeah,
the
the-
company, forcing the mod to be taken down. And it's like, it's their game. They can mod whatever they want. Why do you care if they're modding their game? Well, you can't take the flags out of it. So it was really scummy and stupid. That's why that company is terrible. To Bethesda's credit, people came out with mods to change it to male and female, and Bethesda hasn't said a thing.
It's awesome.
They apparently just don't care if you're going to mod it. So they did we're going to cater to the very vocal political crowd, but if you mod it, we don't care.
We're not going to stop you.
Yes. So, you know, Unlike the makers of
Well.
Spider-Man 2, they're not psychopaths. You know what I heard from Silver the other day? She was like, you know what? We need to talk about Pedro Pascal more on the podcast. If it's not Last of Us, if it's not Mandalorian, if it's not Fantastic Four,
don't do it.
I need more Pedro Pascal. She said this to me. And I said, I will help you out, Silver.
I haven't talked to you in like 2 weeks.
Whose fault is that? Pedro Pascal has called J.K. Rowling a heinous loser in the wake of the Supreme Court gender ruling in the UK. This is not a political podcast, but to clarify what's going on, the UK Supreme Court passed a law stating that essentially gender is biological.
Yep.
J.K. Rowling, a very, very left-wing individual, is very, very anti-trans. Whatever her justification is, you can look into that. We are not here to discuss the politics around it. I think that makes her a TERF. Trans exclusionary feminist is what you call it. Well, Pedro Pascal didn't care for it. And he goes on the internet attacking her publicly, calling her a heinous loser. Lest we forget...
A heinous loser that could buy and sell you.
Yes, well, lest we forget, Gina Carano was banned for making political statements, not attacking people on the internet. But I guess Pedro Pascal can get away with it because people like him and he has carte blanche to do whatever he wants to.
It's not only that people like him, but this is according to the basically Pedro Pascal has the right opinion.
Yeah, this is why
he's not getting canceled.
This is why Disney's not intervening, which is a problem because lest we forget, he is on a show on HBO called The Last of Us. And he's attacking somebody who owns a product that HBO is spending huge amounts of money on to make a show on HBO called Harry Potter.
Which has its own problems.
We all lambasted a young lady for saying heavy politically charged things when she was playing Snow White. And she damaged the brand and the film, and people used her as an icon to discredit Disney. She became a symbol of bad, woke Hollywood. Pedro Pascal, no one says a thing. And is potentially damaging a company he works for. Surprise, surprise, surprise. But yeah, Pedro can get away with anything. Apparently. Everybody remember Cowboy Bebop, the really bad Netflix show? Cowboy Bebop.
Is it back?
No.
Oh.
But
It's back
after
in the
all of
news.
these years of basically being the center of the controversy and angering everybody, Daniela Pineda, how do you pronounce her stupid name? Pineda. She came out and made a statement, a few years now after the Cowboy Bebop Netflix came out. And she said, I feel like those animations, they mean so much to people and they're so personal. And I think people really connect to when they watch it at certain points in their lives. I'll say this. Having been in one, I think that those studios, they need to do a better job at valuing that IP. Oh,
Wow.
how the turntables!
My
She
gosh.
attacked fans for
Yes, she
not
did.
liking the show. Now claiming, hey, they need to really value these IPs because people really care about. Oh, maybe it's because your career has taken the shits and no one likes you anymore because you damaged one of the most beloved animes of all time. And now you have the nerve to act like you're taking the high road and claiming, you know what? Fans really like this stuff. We should take it seriously. Really?
Oh,
Really?
say
Someone who played a character that was nothing like the one from the anime. Nothing.
What'd she play?
She played Faye.
She played Faye.
Oh. Oh.
She screamed and cussed and was a lesbian. I was like, this has
Yep,
nothing to do with the original character. That is not remotely close. What? Oh, I wonder if your career has been severely damaged because you became, you picked a fight with fans on the internet. You became enemy number one because you were damaging something people actually love. Now the nerve to crawl out of the gutter later and be like, we should do a better job at valuing the IP.
You know, I'm okay with this. This sounds actually like an apology, and it sounds like I would have to see going forward if she still sticks with this and is like, look, I'm part of this IP now, and I think you're dishonoring it. You know, if she starts doing stuff like that, then I would take that more as
I don't believe it's genuine
kind of thing.
But I don't believe it's genuine. Because she did some weirdly hypocritical things at the time. She claimed that people are just upset because they want her to wear a skimpy outfit, and that's disgusting. And why would you do? First of all, I'm not that bothered that they don't have her in practically underwear all of the time because Faye was just wore practically nothing in the show.
Yeah.
However, when she said that, people pointed at a show where she wore practically nothing. So her claim that people are Jeff Bean pervs falls on deaf ears. I don't think this is an honest turnaround. Now, it may be, but we have evidence of her attacking fans over stuff that she was already hypocritically doing before this. I don't buy it. But you know what? You might be right. Maybe this is genuine. But her reputation is already damaged, at least in the fan base. She needs to do more outside of the nerd realm content.
Yeah.
How the turntables.
I mean, if she starts backing up people like Henry Cavill, when Henry Cavill comes out with the Witcher stuff and is like, that's not how the character would react, and that's not.
She's
in
not
the
gonna.
book.
You're giving her way too much credit.
You're right, but I would judge this as more of a genuine reaction, more of a, like I said, more penitent if that's what she started doing. Let's say with the Andor thing, she's like, that shouldn't have been in Star Wars. The fans were right here. Let's see some stuff like that, and then maybe I'll be more.
Yeah, she's not going to do that. Moving on. One of my favorite stories. So they took Splash Mountain out at Disneyland. And apparently it's been very unpopular because Splash Mountain is one of the most popular rides at Disneyland.
Yep. It has been for years.
Well, hilariously enough, Tokyo Disney has refused to change it. And if you want to go to the original Splash Mountain, you go to Tokyo Disney. And you might ask yourself, well, how is that the case? How could they get away with it and Disney can't make them change it? Well, because Tokyo Disney is actually different from all of the other Disney properties. Tokyo Disney is owned by a different company, and they license the ability to make Disney rides at Tokyo Disney.
That is awesome. I love that.
And so they have zero interest in changing Splash Mountain.
Yeah, I can understand why.
And apparently the new Splash Mountain has not been received well. Yay, Japan.
Funny. So
I'm going to try and give an overview. There's so much more detail to this, which we don't need to get into because this will be a 40-hour podcast. An extremely important piece of news has come out. I'm going to read the article as quickly as we can. We can make comments, but it's a big deal. It's just way more than the purposes of this podcast. So a high-profile legal dispute targeting hiring practices at CBS Studios has quietly come to an end. with significant implications for the entertainment industry. After more than a year of legal back and forth, CBS and freelance writer Brian Benecker have officially settled a lawsuit that challenged the network's DI policies.
Wow.
The case, filed February 2024, alleged that Benecker was denied a full-time position on the SEAL Team series because of his demographic background, being a white male. And CBS's emphasis on its corporate inclusion initiatives at the heart of the lawsuit was a claim that merit was being sidelined in favor of demographic checklists. We all know that's happening. A critique echoed by a growing chorus of industry watchdogs and legal analysts. On April 18th, U.S. District Judge Ann Huang signed off on a joint stipulation to dismiss the case with prejudice, meaning it cannot be refiled. Each side will cover its own legal fees, and though the exact terms remain sealed, sources suggest that Benecker received a financial resolution, though reportedly a modest one. While CBS did not admit fault or issue a formal statement on the outcome, legal observers see this as a major moment. The settlement marks the first notable financial resolution in a case brought by a freelance professional alleging unfair treatment based upon not fitting a company's preferred demographic profile. Benecker's CBS DI lawsuit was reported by America First Legal Foundation, a group that has challenged inclusion-based hiring standards in various industries. Paramount Global and CBS Studios have gathered to a settlement in a lawsuit American Legal First brought on behalf of our client, Brian Benecker. America First Legal is pleased to see Paramount and CBS publicly back off their DI requirements and return to merit-based considerations. Without reading the rest of the article, this opens up to massive amounts of lawsuits attacking DI practices as basically to get settlements, which could cause a huge shift in the political environment in Hollywood, because there's now potentially financial repercussions because there is discrimination going on. Reaction?
This needed to happen. It's the only language these people seem to understand is hit him in the pocketbook.
I agree. And hopefully this causes a whole lot more problems down the line. This article's on that part place if you want to go into more depth. I'm very encouraged by the outcome, because this could cause a huge ripple effect across Hollywood and the corporate America.
That this is coming back. You know, there were all these protests and laws and things to get rid of stuff like this. And now we have to do this all over again.
Yeah, it's like the civil rights movement didn't work because now discrimination is okay, just in another direction.
Yep.
Moving on. So an interesting story. I don't know if you're listening to this and you don't know who this individual is, but Alyssa Mercante, former editor-in-chief of Kotaku, who has done a lot of scummy things in her life, like publicly doxing people, attacking people online, lying about things she said, destroying evidence to try and cover up things during a lawsuit. Generally, just not a great person. All right?
Yeah.
Well documented, terrible person on the internet. Well, apparently things have been going so poorly for her after having lost her job at Kotaku. She's now working at a restaurant.
Wow.
And has struggled to find work.
There.
Yep. So effing lost my job and am struggling to get a new one because a year-plus long harassment campaign. You brought this on yourself. I'm a human being. Not having health insurance is scary. Moving apartments in the midst of all of this is a huge financial strain. I was doing my job well. You were not. She was at the center of a lot of the Gamergate stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, she claimed she was going to be fine when she was first fired. She's like, I'll just go back to sex work because she did
Oh my
internet
gosh.
nudie stuff.
Oh.
Apparently,
And that apparently qualified her to be a reporter at Kotaku?
she checked some boxes.
Of course she did.
Melanie Mack, who is commonly a aggressive individual on Twitter, who says a lot of based, if you will, very right-wing Christian individual, had a actually very encouraging take. She said, not going to lie, I think being a waitress would be a fun job, and it's something I would consider if I quit doing social media. And this is way better than her doing OnlyFans.
Yeah.
I hope she can turn her life around in a good way. Glad she's not influencing our gaming culture with queer crap. I would agree. So, I don't want her in my stuff, but I don't want her life to be destroyed completely. She's not a great person. She literally talks to a bunch of people.
Yeah.
She's currently in a massive lawsuit. So yeah. Alyssa Mercante.
the thing is, like you were saying, she brought this on herself. The thing is if she hadn't been as toxic as she was, people would be willing to hire her. But the problem that she's running into now is that nobody wants to take that chance that they will be pulled into that same situation.
Her reputation is well documented on the internet.
Yeah. She's made herself poison to these companies.
Yep. Conduct yourselves with respect, people. It can come back to bite you. Doctor Who ratings have crashed to an all-time low again.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't think it could go lower.
That's right. The most recent episode is now the most least watched episode of all time.
They ran it into the ground and then they gave him a shovel and said, "Start digging."
I hope every new episode is just like, now we've now broken
now
the
it's
all-time
worse.
low. Yeah.
I gotta say, that's what it sounds like right now. That they just basically are. I read an article where it was going over the numbers, and right now, the top 10 least watched Doctor Who episodes, 8 of them are Ncuti Gatwa episodes. One is a Jodie Whittaker, and one is a Peter Capaldi.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you something.
It does. Voltron movie is wrapped filming.
Interesting. Nice. Well, maybe.
They've been filming in Australia. This also stars Henry Cavill.
Oh, well then, in that case.
Yeah, Henry Cavill, Rita Ora, Sterling K. Brown, Alba Batista, who is married to Chris Evans.
Oh, interesting.
Daniel Quinn Toy, Samson Kayo. I hope it's good. We have seen almost nothing about this movie.
Yeah, I didn't. This is actually the first time I've heard anything about it. I didn't even know they were making a Voltron movie.
And something which I have opinions on why this is happening, but something you guys might speculate on. Madam Web has had more views on Netflix than Deadpool and Wolverine has on Disney Plus.
Interesting.
Something fishy's going.
I wonder if people are watching. So, I assume that the reason that Deadpool and Wolverine isn't getting that many views on Disney is because people went and saw it in the theaters. It did such a good job in the theaters. It brought in so much money.
That would not be my first conclusion.
Well, what I'm saying is nobody went to see Madam Web because everybody heard how terrible it was. And now people are saying, well, now that it's on Netflix and I already have Netflix, I'm already paying for it, maybe I'll see what this train wreck was about. Whereas if people already saw Deadpool and Wolverine in the theaters, they don't necessarily they're not just queuing up to watch it again on Disney Plus.
I I don't think that's the case. It could be two. It could be a couple reasons. Netflix is bigger than Disney Plus,
That's true.
so there are more viewers to watch Madam Web. Number two, Disney Plus isn't a place people go to watch that type of content. People who subscribe to Disney Plus are probably watching Bluey
Very true.
True.
or
Very
some
true.
other
Yeah,
children's
no kid
programming.
is like Deadpool and Wolverine. Let's go.
Precisely. Deadpool and Wolverine is good enough. I could see repeated viewers. I don't think people, I think the people that watch Deadpool and Wolverine are not the people that subscribe to Disney Plus.
That's they also may own it.
Yeah, if they liked it enough, they probably bought it.
Yeah, so they bought it. So there's no reason for them to go watch it on Disney Plus. They can just
And
I
Madam
think-
Web was notoriously so bad. People probably were like, well, I got to see this. And they're willing to give it a shot because it's free because they have Netflix. I mean, technically not free, but, you know.
Right, but I think that's kind of in line a little bit with what I was saying. People who watched, Deadpool and Wolverine did so well in the theaters that I don't think people are queuing up on Disney Plus to rewatch it. But people are watching Madam Web now that it's on Netflix because it's like, well,
Yeah.
I wasn't going to shell out for it in the theater, and I'm already I've already got Netflix. I might as well watch it.
I think you're right about your second point. I don't think you're right about your first point. I don't think people are just not watching it because they already watched it. I just think it's just a wholly different audience. Deadpool and Wolverine is a rated R, younger,
That's
cool
true.
crowd who like to cuss and are like they are not the people subscribing to Disney Plus. I would venture to guess that the vast majority of people who subscribe to Disney Plus are parents leaving on like children's programming for the kids to watch. Yeah, it's Bluey.
Yeah.
It's some other show. I just think that there's just not a crossover of the two. Of the people who watched it in the theater are probably not the people who have Disney Plus.
Well, I
But-
think the other part of it is that if they really liked it, they already own it.
I mean, probably, but not a lot of people are buying physical copies like they used to.
Right, but they may have purchased a digital copy. I know that a lot of people will do that now.
I guess it's been a long time since I bought a digital copy. Most people, when
I
they
guess
make a
most
decision
people
if they
do
want to
more
watch
streaming.
something, is if they really want to watch it, they see it in theaters. If they're
Yeah, that's
mildly
true.
into it, they wait for it to get to the streaming service that they own. It's very unlikely people fork out money to rent things at full price on
No,
Amazon, because it's like they'll come out with a thing and being like, oh well, this is now available to rent online. It's like I'm not paying $20 for a movie I could see for like 6 or 7 at the theater.
True. Although I would say that most of the rental things that I've seen on Amazon are not like full price for it. They're the rental thing to me is really dumb. It's like, why would you rent it?
Well, Jason, movies
But-
that just came out usually are rental for like 20, 25. If they've been on there for years and it's an older movie, you can usually rent it for like $5.
I mean, that's what I would wait for myself. But
See,
actually,
that's
I
my
would just
point.
try to find something free.
People wait. If they weren't going to see it in the theater, they're just going to wait for it to get to streaming. And I don't
Yeah.
think the people who want to see Deadpool
Waited.
own Disney Plus. They just don't.
One is that, and the other is that they didn't wait to see it. Anyway,
Yeah, that's the final article. Yay. Kind of non-ceremoniously on the end of that. Bye night. That's right. We're back at space to
that's
talk
such an
about
amazing
this.
shot of of Saitama. I really like that one.
Yes, I tried to time it with the music.
All right, so this time on Fight Night, we have Forrest Gump. He knows Kung Fu, but he is allergic to all animals. And he is fighting against the Mario Brothers, who throw sticky bombs, and they can only see movement.
This is such a weird fight setup you've got, Jason.
So, what, is Forrest Gump just gonna stand there doing the crane, not moving? They're like, where is he? Where'd he go?
Throw sticky bombs can only see movement. What, like a T-Rex?
Yeah.
Look, it's Mario. His vision's based upon movement.
So, do we want to establish that, or can we say that the Mario Brothers, since they're technically people, are animals, and therefore Forrest Gump, well, is he allergic to them?
He wouldn't be allergic to them because then he would be allergic to himself. So I'm going to.
We're not gonna.
That.
Okay, all right.
People are higher than animals, Silver.
I'm higher than humans.
No.
Okay, so to ChatGPT gives us this breakdown. He says Forrest Gump knows Kung Fu, so he's a skilled martial artist. He's allergic to all animals, probably bad news if any animals show up, but otherwise neutral here. Mario and Luigi, they throw sticky bombs, so they have heavy firepower. They can only see movement, so if Forrest holds very still, they literally can't see him. Very Jurassic Park. This says Velociraptor rules, but the Velociraptors didn't have that. It was T-Rex. If Forrest is smart, and he is in his own foresty way, he could stay completely still to avoid detection, maybe use stealth and sneak up. But the Mario Brothers will probably throw sticky bombs around randomly. Area denial is a real threat. If a bomb sticks to Forrest even while he's in hiding, that's a wrap. On the flip side, Forrest is a kung fu master, and if he gets close without them seeing him, since they can't see non-moving things, he could knock them out before they even react. Big advantage, Forrest has precision and stealth. Big disadvantage, he's vulnerable to area of effect attacks from bombs. Final verdict, if it's a wide open battlefield with nowhere to hide, the Mario Brothers have a huge advantage. Sticky bombs everywhere equals Forrest gets unlucky eventually. But if it's a cluttered area, like a jungle gym, furniture, or ruins where Forrest can sneak and hide, Forrest Gump wins probably by sneaking up and kung-fuing the Mario Brothers into submission. It's asking me, would you want me to draw a little battle diagram too?
Oh my gosh.
No. I don't. Forrest Gump? Forrest Gump, I guess.
I'm seeing what it's going to give me here in the diagram.
Oh, you're generous. Can't wait.
I mean, Forrest Gump, I would say, has mobility, and it's a hard thing because the Mario Brothers also have mobility, but at the same time they're limited by not being able to see things that aren't moving. So if Forrest Gump is clever about the way he works here, he could get close enough to take them out. But it's the Mario Brothers do have the AoE on their side, whereas Forrest Gump has to get up close and personal. And if the two Mario Brothers move away from each other, they can even cover more of the area.
I find most of those details irrelevant when it comes to this fight.
Okay.
Forrest Gump's kind of spurgy. He wins at everything. Like for one of the dullest, dumbest people who've ever existed, he succeeds every time he tries stuff. which is a hidden magic power that his Spurky self has. Hey, he likes ping pong, greatest ping pong player. Tries to become a fisherman, multi-million-dollar corporation. Goes to Vietnam, escapes with his life, Medal of Honor.
War hero.
War hero. Meets multiple presidents. Fastest man alive. Goes to college because he can, like, he's just.
He does fail upward.
He fails upward constantly. And we have this weird sort of arbitrary setup of they can't see, and it's like Forrest Gump will figure it out. I think his only real vulnerability is Jenny and her AIDS baby.
Yeah, like.
So
I assume she's not present during the fight, though, so never mind.
it was trying to draw the diagram, and it says, looks like I can't create that image because the request violates our content policies. It's likely because it involves real-world characters, like Forrest Gump and the Mario Brothers in a battle setting. But if you want, I can draw a similar fun diagram with original characters like Kung Fu Runner and Bomb Bros.
Oh.
So the thing is that they're not real-world characters. They're all
they're
fictional
copywritten, Jason.
characters. That's true. They are copywritten.
And if he's a master of Kung Fu, he could do that thing in Kung Fu Panda 2, where he shoots cannonballs and he like uses the power of yin yang to throw them back at him.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Historically accurate movie, Kung Fu Panda 2.
Yeah, it's basically a documentary.
Based upon my life.
Oh, is that you?
I like noodles.
Hear it.
My dad's a goose.
So,
I never knew.
Silver, what is your take on this?
Oh. First, I was inclined to lean toward the Mario Brothers. I don't know, something just like chucking all those bombs. Also, they're sticky. One of those lands on Forrest Gump. There's no way. He's dead. I like to get like. Yes, that is a horrible.
I mean, Rhett does have a point with Forrest Gump having plot armor, but
yes.
I mean, the Mario Brothers have lasted for quite some time.
They get one like jump on his head, and Forrest Gump is gone. Question is, how hard is it with the Kung Fu Master?
I'm kind of coming down personally. I'm coming down on the side of the Mario Brothers. There are two of them. They can,
like one distracts, one chucks a bomb.
They can only see movement. This is a massive flaw.
It is a huge. It is a huge flaw. Yes. Forrest Gump's flaw by comparison, since they're both people, he's not allergic to them. This would be more something that maybe
he's all pluses. The Mario Brothers have nothing but negatives.
What if he became like Tanuki Mario? Would he be allergic then?
Actually, probably.
Well, I mean, there's Frog Mario and stuff, but they're not.
Yeah.
Silver, they're not.
That's
they don't
true.
have that
They're
power.
not in their little thing.
Oh.
Mario Brothers negatives. They can only see movement. They're Italian.
When is Forrest Gump even going to be able to defeat them just by not moving? He just like stares them down and like, bam, they're dead? No, he's going to have to move. They're going to see him coming.
Forrest Gump can do anything he puts his mind to.
Like I said, I'm more on the side of the Mario Brothers. What's your verdict, Silver?
I gotta go Mario Brothers.
You're dead to me. I hate this game.
All right, the winner in this one is the Mario Brothers. They move on.
You know who you side with Silver? Jenny. She manipulated a guy with mental disorder, slept with him when she knew she had AIDS.
Potentially gave it to him, and we are ending the line of infectivity.
You're a bad person.
I know.
Next time, we are going to have a wizard in an exoskeleton that throws burritos versus a giant guacamole squid with a cattle prod.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it's been a special episode of the DG podcast. So much. Were you going to say something before we get out of here?
I was going to say, that's it for the fight night. Moving on.
It was busted. We were late. Silver's at fault. No Ross here. So
I know,
many
I should
problems.
get my priorities straight.
You know who's more important than school? Me.
Rhett.
That's right.
He is the main character. I'm ruining your story.
Well, everybody, it's been a great podcast and kind of a crappy week, but we will catch you guys next time. Goodbye.
If you like the show, follow Rhett, Jason, Ross, and Silver, the world's most lethally stupid internet personalities, on Twitter at DG Podcast or on Instagram at Distracted Gamers. If you liked or hated what you heard here today, you can email them at thedistractedgamers@gmail.com and share your feelings. Not that Jason would care, since he hasn't any, of course.
Oh my God, it's so juicy.